Aloha, everybody. I'm Eva Andrade on this episode of the Triple F podcast. Jim and I are going to be talking about the fires in Lahaina and what that means for people of faith and how we can plug in and make a difference through ministry. So let's chat about that. Jim, welcome to the show today.
Well, thanks. You too.
So are you paying as much attention to what's happening in Lahaina as I am?
I have clients in Lahaina that I've been communicating with. I have friends from Lanai that were actually in Lahaina on the 8th and 9th, but didn't get hurt. So I am interested in it, but there's a lot of other stuff going on too.
I think it's personal for me because my parents used to send me and my three brothers to Maui every single summer. We would spend our summers on Maui, and I have cousins that live in Kihei. My cousin is actually the parochial vicar on Maui. So as the Catholic priest that's kind of in charge of Maui and Kauai, he's been pretty busy. But I think what really strikes me is the amount of pain and loss that we're witnessing on Maui. It's unbelievable.
It's kind of unfathomable, actually, just looking at the burned out everything. You know, I mean, what is that?
The more we're reading about what's happening, and I know that those that are watching and listening, it's hard to believe that people were given seconds, to get out of the house. And in some cases, they get out of the house and they're told to go back and wait. I mean, at least that some of that's the reports we're hearing right now is that there were conflicting messages about, do we get out? Do we stay? Whatever. But in spite of all of that, we're talking about hundreds of lives lost.
Probably times 10. But here's the interesting thing, and we'll actually get into what the facts were. But I will tell everybody that at 11:45 on the first workday of every month, I get completely frustrated for 60 seconds when the green horn on the telephone pole outside my house goes off to practice emergency warnings, right? And they didn't even use it. But we'll get into that later.
Well, yes. And do we all remember the missile crisis?
Oh, yeah.
Everybody in the state of Hawaii, their phones went off, you know, with this fake missile that was coming. So it's hard to comprehend that people could not have been warned in a reasonable manner. And I know
you can't train the entire population every month for every year. I've been here since I was 10. It happens, you know, it's not a new thing. And you can't train us to be aware of that means trouble and then choose not to use it. Well, it makes no sense.
I don't know about you, but, you know, growing up here, I went to public school. I went to a private school. We were always given the fire drill. I mean, you're taught, right, what to do.
Fire drill. That's right.
I know that when I moved into my new place up in Mililani Mauka, you know, some of the new neighbors, we all moved in at the same time, and we were all talking about what's your escape plan, right? I mean, I think people need to have that.
And you said the rapture. What else?
Yeah, there's only one way in. But I think that parents right now, not just parents, I think anybody who lives somewhere needs to be thinking about what do you do if you have seconds to get out of the house? I mean, what about your pets? You know, what about your medicines? These are things people didn't have time to even think about that. I mean, the sad reports that are coming out is that people died in the car. You know, there were people that tried to get in their cars, and I want to make sure that something like this never happens again. And I think that our politicians and people in office, this needs to be their first and foremost thing, is how do we make sure this never happens again?
And when we get down to the conspiracy theories section today, we're really going to talk a lot about that.
Yeah, and I want to make sure we get enough time for that, because I've been getting, my emails have been blowing up with people that are talking about some of those conspiracy theories. But let's talk first of all about how the church, you and I on many shows have talked about how the church is uniquely situated to rise in the time of emergencies like this. The church way back when has always been the very institution that is ready to do what needs to be done in the community. And
that's even before the United States was populated by Europeans. I mean, this is for millennia, the church has been the social service agency up until around the Second World War when it started to become the government.
I love that you can look at what happened in Lahaina and see that even before the government was doing anything, the churches were already rising and making their places ready. King's Cathedral on Maui, they immediately were getting ready to have people come and stay. Because we got to think about that. Thousands of people immediately lost their livelihood.
They lost everything.
And they had nothing. In fact, one of the guys they were interviewing, it struck me that he was saying that all I have is the clothes on my back. And I mean, I think about that what would my life be if suddenly I got that phone call saying my house burned down? Everything's gone. Your pictures. I mean, think about that. Your life is gone in an instant.
Yep.
And when I say life, I don't mean your physical life, but I mean everything you've collected, your photographs, your records, your jewelry. I mean, things are burnt beyond even recognition. That's why they're still having trouble finding some of the missing people.
That's true. But the churches have been stepping up. And the interesting thing is, you're probably getting a lot of requests for donations from trusted old American Red Cross to maybe Calvary Chapel, Pearl Harbor, or King's Cathedral, Maui. But there's a whole bunch of charities of church and non-church kinds that are hitting me up for donations, and I don't even know who they are. And unfortunately, when it comes to online stuff, I have a rule for myself. I never respond to a cold call or an email from somebody I don't know asking me to support something with money. I tell them, since you called me, you must know where I am. Send me something in the mail and I'll look at it. That's just my automatic response to forever. I mean, I've always been like that.
I think that you make a good point, because what happened is even people from the mainland started coming to Maui to save Maui from Maui, right? And I think that that's my biggest pet peeve is I don't mind people coming to help, but we have never here in Hawaii needed the mainland to come and save us. We've got a lot of good ministries right here in Hawaii. So it really bothers me when I see these people coming just to do YouTube videos or Facebook live shots from Lahaina going, look at me, I'm ministering. It's like, minister. I was doing a talk and I said to them, stop whining and start ministering. I think we've got to get to the point where we're just doing what Jesus called us to do, and we don't need people to see, right? I mean, the Lord who sees, right, in darkness is going to know what we're doing. I think. Now, does it mean that these other organizations that are doing good work shouldn't tell people they're doing the good work? Well, I mean, they need money, right?
Right.
So I don't have a problem with them asking, but I think that your point is well taken, that people need to do their research before they donate. Don't just donate, because scams also start up, right? That's what I'm talking about. So I actually sent a text, I think, to everybody on the mainland that contacted me to ask if we were okay. So I told them, if you are interested in helping and you want to donate, give it to James Morocco at King's Cathedral, because I've known him since the 80s and I trust him completely. And plus, he's on Maui helping people already. Yep. We did the same thing through Hawaii Family Forum. The first thing we did is, as a company, because we wanted to make sure we give back, we just celebrated our 25th anniversary gala. We didn't make a lot of money, but we made a little bit of money. But the first thing I did was to send 2 checks out to 2 churches that we work with over there. And one of them was Grace Bible Maui, who's also doing some really good work over there. Catholic Charities, who that's what they do, is they go out there and they make sure that people have food and rental assistance. So they're already set up to do this kind of good work. So we want to make sure that they get the money. I know that there's other, like Aloha United Way is out there doing good work, but some people say, why should I give to Aloha United Way when they actually give money to Planned Parenthood? But what I tell people is, in this case, they're doing it specifically for the people of Maui. So if that's how you want to give, then, go ahead and give. Let Jesus be responsible for the blessings. And who knows, maybe if you shine your light in a little bit in the darkness, maybe you'll bring some light into the darkness.
At Aloha United Way?
Hey, yeah. If people see, what I mean is, if you pray and invest, do you think Jesus is like, oh, gee, I can't go help them? No, I think that Jesus can save anybody or anything, because he's a powerful Messiah.
That's true. But
I'll be responsible with your money. I agree. All right. So I'm not telling people to give to Aloha United Way. I'm just saying that there's some good Christian ministries that are out there doing some good work.
That's true. And so the next part of our discussion is going to be something that you gave me from Bruce Graham's office, who's a lawyer for the Diocese of the Catholic Church, which I looked at. I thought it was really great stuff. And it actually came from Legal Aid Society of Hawaii, which was, okay, so everything burned down. Guess what? You don't have anymore.
You don't have driver's licenses.
It's a long
you don't
list.
have
Do we
birth
want to do that
certificate.
real quick?
I think so, because if people are listening and they want to help, if you're not on Maui and you want to help people on Maui, what you can do is help people on Maui by referring to some of these resources.
And you're going to put the actual links on the screen or something?
If you go to the hawaiifamilyforum.org website or to the hawaiifamilyadvocates.com website, we're going to have these links that we're talking about today available. So visit us there. But if you're watching on YouTube, just check the resources links below and we'll have that as well.
Okay, so let me do this real quick.
Yeah.
So like I have stuff that I never, ever use because you don't need it, like my birth certificate. I don't remember the last time I looked at it. I hope it's not all, dust and destroyed for being because I'm old. But you need that when you've lost other things like your driver's license and your passport, right?
Is this coming from the attorney that demanded to see Barack Obama's birth certificate?
It is. So, in fact, I sued over it. However, so vital records, if you were born in Hawaii, if you were married in Hawaii, if you've a family member died in Hawaii, if somebody was divorced in Hawaii, those records are in the State Department of Health Vital Records Office, and you can get that info online or through the mail, and you'll put this info in more detail. If you lost your driver's license, it's at the county, and if you're on Maui, you go to the Maui County to get your phone number or your driver's license or your state ID thing. If you have a professional license, you were a contractor or a real estate agent or any of that kind of stuff, and it got burned up, you go to the Department of Commerce and Consumer Affairs in the state. If you need VA stuff, which you would, there are benefits number to call, and there's also a main info for other things. If you have immigration issues, passport issues, all this info you're going to put on there. Social Security, Medicare cards, if you have insurance stuff, if you're looking for missing persons from Lahaina, there's the American Red Cross. If you need shelter, call 911. And if you have immediate needs for immediate stuff, clothes, food, shelter, all that stuff, the FEMA number is available. So when I was looking at this thing, it just really sunk in what the visual of Lahaina means to people that didn't perish. They've lost all of this plus things they do use regularly, their guitars or whatever have you. But you can do without a guitar. You really need this backup paperwork to get your life going.
I'll tell you what I learned in the military. There's a lot of documents. You mentioned some of them. There's a lot. Tax returns, right? There's a lot of things you don't want to lose in a fire. It doesn't cost a lot of money to get these little fire.
It's a safe or a
It's
box.
like a little safe box, but it's fireproof to keep your documents in that, because even if you take off and leave that in the house, your house may be destroyed, but at least this thing that's locked will be available for you.
Although they are rated at temperatures, and that fire may have been hotter than any of those concrete boxes are made.
You're doing a very good segue into those conspiracy theories, so we'll definitely save some time for that. I think the other thing, I just want to mention this because I'm an animal lover. They're also looking for people who are willing to take in some of these animals that are now homeless.
I hadn't heard that, actually.
Oh, my goodness. Because if you think about it, most people, if they have seconds to think about it, I think I would grab my animal, but, your kids would be your important thing, right? But I mean, so there's a lot of animals now that have nowhere to go. Some of them have been burned. Some of them need a lot of care. So, if you're an animal lover like me, maybe you can consider giving some money to the animal shelter there on Maui, I think. Or if you live on Maui and you want to take one of these, they're looking for people to foster some of these animals. So yes, I love animals, Jim, and I'm sorry I have to throw that in there too. So let's jump into these conspiracy theories. So I'll open the floor to you.
So the way I broke it down is, what are the conspiracy theories and where is the publication of it so that people will realize it's mainstream media publishing this stuff? And then what are the actual facts?
Good. Okay? Thank you.
But while I was thinking about that, the thought occurred to me, you know, when I was a kid in the early 60s and the 50s and stuff, there were conspiracy theories. There weren't a lot of them. There was like Roswell. I think that's the only widely held conspiracy theory from back then. And then after the Warren Commission evaluated the Kennedy assassination, there were conspiracy theories about that. And it in the more recent years, maybe because of the internet or maybe not. And that's what I was thinking. Why would we have so many conspiracy theories all the time about everything now?
Because we've given everybody a platform. Everybody has a platform now.
It. But you know what I was also thinking? It could also be because the level of willingness to accept as true what the government tells us has decreased greatly. So I was wondering, why would that be? And, you know, there's a marked, really troubling trend for the last decade or two in American government where when I was being raised by my parents in our family, truth was important, service and fairness was important. And my mother always said to me and my sisters, the ends cannot never justify the means. And that gives you a foundation for trust, right? You can, if that's the rule, you can trust what people are doing. And I would say since probably the year 2000, maybe, in the politics of our country, there's been this march toward the ends do justify the means. And I'm going to throw out that the clearest example of that is how the 45th president of the United States can have all these indictments and all these courts and all these jurisdictions, state and federal, when it's never happened before.
And they're keeping on coming, man. Yeah, we're not even finished yet, right? By the time the elections come around, how many indictments you think we'll end up with?
I don't know. A lot. And I think they don't likely care if there's even a conviction as long as it gets past the next presidential election and they win, because the ends justify the means. They want to win. I don't know that's true, but I think it is. You know,
okay, just as a segue, because you're talking about that, somebody said recently that the next presidential debate is going to be held in jail with both Biden and Trump are going to be in their jail cells and they'll be debating.
Or if they want it to be funny, like you and I might be, when they go to the debate stage, they just wear striped clothes anyway for fun.
That would be fun.
But anyway. their PR campaign people will say never.
Yes.
Never.
All right. We digress.
So if the ends justify the means has actually caused me personally, and probably a lot of other people, not to just want to immediately believe what I read, what I hear, what the government tells me. And that's why you and I, when we want to do a show, we see something in an article that cites to the original document they're talking about. We throw their article away and we go get the document and deal with it, right?
Right.
Because we don't trust the author to say more than what he wants us to believe. So anyway, one of the theories is that, and our own government actually said this, Fox News reported it, climate change has caused the fire in Lahaina. There are other stories in other places that say it's actually the policies and institutions of government's failures to fix things that caused the disaster. BBC.com reports that some people believe a laser beam was shot from somewhere into the field above Lahaina to start the fire intentionally. The BBC reports that the people that say that are politically motivated activists seeking to downplay the potential impact of climate change, because BBC agrees with Josh Green. Then you have AP, AssociatedPressNews.com, which is reporting that there's an elite land grab going on in Lahaina so that the government can take over the entire town and build smart cities. And they cite these tech conferences on Maui that talk about it.
Okay, so I looked into those tech conferences. And first of all, the tech conferences have been going on for years. And these ideas have been a small part of the overall conference. Right. So yes, they've been discussing it for the last couple of years.
This is true.
No,
I'm just saying these are the conspiracy theories, right?
Right, but I'm doing what you tell us to do, right? I went to the source because I wanted to see if that was the case.
So Mises.org did a really good analysis of what happened in Maui. And they're saying that the title is, "Thanks to Government, Maui's Lahaina fire became a deadly conflagration." And this was August 16, 2023, and you can look at it online, Mises.org, blah, blah, blah. But so then they go into the details. So what are the facts about Lahaina? No laser beam in the facts, no climate change in the facts. Here's the facts that get reported. The location of the town of Lahaina is on the west side of Maui.
It's dry.
The west side of Oahu is dry. The west side of the Big Island is dry because it's the leeward side. Okay? The windward side is the wet side on every island in this chain. Number two, the area itself is mostly state land. So the state had a responsibility to maintain the land to not be a fire problem. And it's a grassland. Facts. Interesting, I didn't know this. About 10 years ago, the Hawaii Wildlife Management Organization did a report to the Hawaii state government, warning them that Lahaina was extremely fire prone due to these conditions. With the winds coming down off the West Maui Mountains, and if you get a hurricane offshore, it's going to supercharge those winds. And in the meantime, for the almost 10 years, there was no corrective action by the state on the land they own, which is where the fire came from. Facts. In 2020, there was an updated report that noted that an invasive species of exceptionally flammable grasses had become prevalent up and around Lahaina. And again, they warned about these hurricane winds that if it started on fire, it would... What feeds fire? Air, oxygen, right? So on August the 8th, the day the fire started, at around sunrise, this is a fact, a large fault was detected in the Lahaina power grid, indicating a downed power line. 20 minutes later, the first report of fire arrived. There's also solar farms in the same area on a little bit of land that's owned by, I think, Bishop Estate or Kamehameha Schools. I'm not sure. Here's the interesting next 4 points. Facts. No formal procedure was in place to shut off sections of the grid, knowing about the severe risk for almost 10 years. 29 fully energized poles fell across West Maui on August 8th. The failure to activate the emergency siren has not been explained adequately. And when the firemen got into Lahaina, the fire hydrants ran out of water immediately. So those are facts. Those are government policy indicators. They are not global warming indicators.
Did you see in regards to the water, this whole thing about water equity? Did you see that they're talking about water equity?
The guy who was in charge of saying yes or no to water had gotten his degree from the University of Hawaii. Nothing wrong with that. I got two. In Hawaiian studies, and his preference was not to see water as something that we use, but as something not, what was the phrasing? Something to worship because it was part of the nature that God creates. And if that is really the basis for there being no water, somebody's going to jail. I don't know.
Well, it is interesting how every time we have these kind of emergencies here, these people resign, and somebody on the mainland was talking about what happened.
Somebody resigned for health reasons, and somebody else texted me something asking, what do you think it was? And I said, well, it was anything from a headache to a threatened life. I don't know.
I can't remember who it was, but one of the mainland news reporters was talking about what's happening here in Hawaii, and they said, you had one job. It's like if this is your job and you're getting paid uku billions of dollars to do what you're going to do, then can you make sure that you are doing your job?
But see, that's the whole point with the ends justify the means. If your job is to take care of the water supply for the entire island of Maui, or maybe even just the west side, right? I don't know what the scope of his authority was. And instead of honorably pursuing your responsibility, you have a different motivation to conserve the water because it's a religious thing. The ends are justifying your means. You're not doing your job because you don't want your job to result in what it's supposed to be. You have a different end in mind.
And people
my mom was one tough cookie. She was probably 5'4" and weighed, 95 pounds or something. Irish. Teeny little Irish lady. But there was no lying. There was no cheating. I'm serious. I mean, you ever have your ear pulled?
Yes.
Your body follows.
Yes. I think it's hilarious because when you actually look at these people that are coming in on both sides, right? So now the people that are coming in saying that all these conspiracy theories, they were showing these videos, right? And they go, the Hawaiians are mad and they're threatening because of this. And the clip they show.
Two howlies.
No, it was definitely, they called her an older Hawaiian lady and they show the clip and she's going, you're not going to build here. You're not going to build here. It was Mauna Kea.
I saw that.
And we're
it was
like,
about Mauna Kea.
Okay, if you're going to throw some clips in there, can you at least make sure it's the right island? I know.
They don't know the difference.
But that's how you know, right? That these things are just trying to make their story look good. But
the story I thought you were talking about was the middle finger salutes to Biden when he got there yesterday.
Oh,
and there was two Howley guys doing it, from what I could tell. I mean, they didn't ever show their faces, but they showed their arms.
One of the person that was yelling at the fire chief on Maui.
That was a Howley guy too.
And he wasn't even from here.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, we don't need you to come here and ask all these questions, because what that does is, first of all, it fuels the anger and the angst on people, because here in Hawaii, our culture is normally not in your face like that. Not that it doesn't happen, but that's normally not how we roll. So what's our call to action? I think the first thing we need to remember.
Look at the webpage at HFF and HFAs to get the details on how to get your stuff.
Yep. And make sure that you're giving to these good Christian organizations that are doing some great ministry there, and keep these families in prayer. I mean, some people lost everything, including their family members.
Yep.
This is a serious situation and it's still ongoing. They don't have the fires completely out yet. They're 80 or 85% contained is my understanding. Not all the bodies have been identified. So the numbers are going to go up. Pray for everybody. Pray for Hawaii, and stand united, everybody. This is the time for us to work together to provide ministry and to stop fighting. Make sure you stay tuned. Next week, Jim and I are going to be talking about, what are we going to be talking about next week?
We're going to talk about kupuna care.
Oh, yes. We're going to talk about kupuna care. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, hit that notification button so you know every time we upload a new video. And we will see you all next week. Mahalo, everybody.
Aloha.